He thought his badge made him untouchable. He thought wrong. For years, Officer Daniel Carter had gotten away with it all. The racial profiling, the harassment, the power trips. His badge was his shield, his excuse, his permission slip to do whatever he wanted. But that all changed the day he pulled over the wrong car. You see, he didn't know who was behind the wheel. He had no idea he was about to mess with a highly decorated black military officer who knew exactly how to fight back. And fight back she did. What happened next would shatter his world and expose everything he had tried to hide. This is the story of how one woman's courage brought a corrupt cop's kingdom crashing down. But let me take you back to where it all began, because this isn't just another story of injustice. This is a story of sweet, sweet karma. Let me tell you about Officer Daniel Carter. In his 10 years on the force, he had developed quite a reputation in the small town of Brookhaven, and not the good kind. Carter was the type of cop who would park his patrol car outside minority-owned businesses just to keep an eye on things. The type who would follow black drivers for blocks, waiting for any tiny excuse to light up those sirens. The other officers saw it. The community knew it. But Carter? He just kept getting bolder. Like that time he stopped Malcolm Turner, a local high school teacher, for looking suspicious while jogging in his own neighborhood. Or when he detained Mrs. Mei Lin, an elderly Asian woman, for taking too long to cross the street. But here's the thing about Carter. He was smart. He knew exactly how to write his reports, how to make his actions sound justified. Subject exhibited suspicious behavior. Officer feared for safety. The same old lines again and again. And somehow, the complaints against him just kept disappearing into the system. His fellow officers would whisper about it in the break room. Did you hear what Carter did today? But nobody dared speak up. Not when he had friends in high places. Not when he was bringing in good numbers. Besides, who would believe the complainants over a decorated officer's word? Carter loved that power. You could see it in the way he carried himself, the way he smirked when another complaint got dismissed. Just doing my job, he'd say, adjusting his badge with that self-satisfied grin. That badge was his armor, his ticket to do whatever he wanted. And man, did he want everyone to know it. The thing about people like Carter, they start believing their own lies. They start thinking they're untouchable. And that's exactly when life has a way of teaching them the hardest lessons. Carter was about to learn that lesson in a way he'd never forget. Because karma doesn't care about your badge. And it was already heading his way in the form of someone who knew exactly how to handle bullies in uniform. Let me introduce you to Lieutenant Colonel Olivia Brooks. 20 years of distinguished military service. 2 tours in Afghanistan. More medals than Carter had parking tickets in his quota book. But you wouldn't know any of that by looking at her. She wasn't the type to brag. Most days, you'd find Olivia volunteering at the local Veterans Center, helping fellow vets navigate the system she knew like the back of her hand. Everyone deserves a fighting chance, she always said. And she meant it. The same discipline that earned her those medals, she used it to help others. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Olivia was heading to the Veterans Center in her modest Toyota Camry. Nothing flashy. That wasn't her style. She had just finished her morning run, still wearing her Army PT shirt. The same shirt she'd worn hundreds of times before. Now, Olivia had dealt with her fair share of prejudice over the years. Being a black woman in the military meant proving yourself twice as hard, working 3 times as long. But she never let it stop her. Excellence is the best response to ignorance, she'd tell the young recruits she mentored. As she stopped at a red light, she noticed a patrol car pulling up behind her. Nothing unusual there, but something about the way the officer was staring through his windshield made her instincts kick in. 20 years of military service teaches you to read situations pretty quickly. She did what she always did. Checked her seatbelt, turned down the radio, kept both hands visible on the steering wheel. Standard procedure, just like she taught in her military police training courses. Olivia Brooks didn't just know the rules. She wrote some of them. The light turned green. She drove exactly the speed limit. The patrol car stayed right behind her, so close she could barely see its hood in her rearview mirror. 3 blocks. 4 blocks. Olivia knew this dance all too well. Then came the lights, those familiar red and blue flashes. She sighed, not in fear, in disappointment. Another day in America. Another random traffic stop. But this one was about to be different. Because Officer Daniel Carter had no idea he was about to pull over someone who'd spent 2 decades teaching military police the right way to handle authority. Someone who documented everything. Someone who knew every regulation he was about to break. License and registration. Carter's voice had that edge to it, that tone that said he'd already decided how this was going to go. Olivia reached slowly, deliberately, for her documents, narrating each movement. "I'm reaching for my credentials in the glove compartment, officer." She handed over 3 items: her driver's license, her vehicle registration, and her military ID. Carter barely glanced at the first 2. But that military ID? His face changed. Not impressed. Suspicious. "You expect me to believe this is real?" Olivia kept her voice steady. "Professional." "Yes, sir. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Olivia Brooks, currently stationed at—" Carter cut her off with a laugh. "Right. And I'm his Secretary of Defense. Step out of the vehicle." Now, Olivia had been in tougher situations. Much tougher. But something about the way Carter's hand rested on his holster, the way his eyes narrowed, she knew this stop wasn't about any traffic violation. "Officer Carter." She read his nameplate. "May I ask why I'm being asked to exit my vehicle?" She was recording everything on her phone, placed carefully on the dashboard. Another habit from years of training others. "Because I said so," Carter snapped. "And turn off that phone. Now." Olivia didn't move. "Sir, I have the right to record this interaction. Could you please state the reason for this stop?" That's when Carter's smirk turned ugly. "Playing lawyer now? Fine. I saw you swerving. Probably drunk. Out. Now." Olivia knew she hadn't swerved once. Her dash cam would prove it later. She stepped out. Still calm. Still professional. Other cars were slowing down now. Witnesses to what was unfolding. Carter grabbed her arm. "Rough. Rough enough to leave marks. Spread your legs. Hands on the car." Olivia's voice remained controlled. "I believe this constitutes excessive force." The handcuffs clicked before she could finish. Carter leaned in close, whispering, "Not so high mighty now, are we, Colonel?" As he shoved her toward his patrol car, Olivia caught a glimpse of her phone, still recording. She'd seen that look in Carter's eyes before, in others who thought power made them invincible. But Olivia Brooks hadn't spent 20 years serving her country to be bullied by someone who dishonored his badge. And she wasn't about to let this slide. Not now. Not ever.